Good afternoon, everybody. We'll try to wake you up. I know it's always hard after lunch, and I always get sessions after lunchtime. As you've just heard from Rachel, we're switching gears from AI to e-learning, obviously a very hot topic, to, I feel, something that is as important, which is the mental health of our students. I'm very, very passionate about the topic as an educator, but more importantly as a mother as well of two teenage boys. We focus so much on the academic part and maybe their physical health, but I think we all know more than ever, especially after the pandemic, how the mental health is essential. And of course, what you've just heard from Rachel is very alarming. And to add to that, I've added a few points as well to introduce our session, which is entitled Mental Health of Our Students, Why We Must Change the Systems They Learn In. Myself and the panel today, we're going to shed light on critical issues that demand our attention and action. Everybody in this room, it's an education conference. As educators, as parents, as policymakers, and concerned individuals, we have shared responsibility to ensure the well-being of our students. The education system, I think, worldwide, I live here in the UAE, in Abu Dhabi, but I think, I've studied in the States, I've lived in other parts of the world, so I speak on the behalf of the globe. The education system plays a vital role in shaping the lives of young individuals, as we all agree on. While it imparts knowledge and skills, it also has a profound impact on their mental health. Today, we explore the pressing need for change within systems to prioritize the mental well-being of our students in every single level, from preschool all the way to college. I teach at a university level, I teach adults, but the problem begins very early on, and you'll hear from our panelists. From increased academic pressure and performance expectations to the rise of what we just heard, the digital technologies and social media influences, our students face unprecedented challenges that can negatively impact their mental health. Things I'm sure you've heard of so far, alarming terms. Depression is becoming like diabetes now. Anxiety is like heart disease, right? Stress, burnout have become all too common among very young people. It is time we recognize that education goes beyond textbooks and exams. Our students deserve environments that foster their holistic development, allowing them to thrive academically, emotionally, and even socially. We must create educational systems that nurture their mental health, resilience, and the overall well-being. With that, during this panel, we will engage in very meaningful discussions. We're going to share insights, explore strategies to address this critical issue. Our esteemed panelists actually will bring a wealth of knowledge and expertise in different fields such as education, psychology, mental health, making this an opportune moment to gain valuable perspectives. With that, I'd like to welcome our panelists, and I'll be calling one at a time. I'll start with Ms. Aqilah Azizuddin. She's here with us. Yes, please give her a round of applause. I'm just going to give a very quick, not an introduction, just their title, so that you'll know more about them during the panel. She's the co-founder and director of Kitakids Preschool, all the way from Malaysia. So welcome, Aqilah. Our next panelist is Dr. Sabrina Jackson, all the way from the United States of America. She told me to skip her titles. She calls herself the people expert. Welcome, Dr. Sabrina. Our next panelist is from a third country, all the way from Germany, is Ms. Deena Mara. She's a Chief Visionary Officer and a life mentor from Feeling Unlimited. Welcome, Tina, to the stage. And last but not least, our fourth panelist is Mr. Girija Shankar, who is the Managing Director of Mars Intellectual here in Abu Dhabi, but he also brings 27 years of experience in oil and gas industry, and he has a passion as an educationalist, so he's very much passionate about education. So I'd like to welcome my panelists on the stage, and let's get started. Thank you. their mic. All right. Well, hello, everyone. Hello. I've met them before, and we've had a very nice chat. So I'm going to start with Tina. I have a question for you. How have traditional educational systems contributed to the mental health challenges faced by students today?
I'm known to see things differently. So I start at a point you might not expect. I think we should go to the root cause why mental issues come up in the first place. And if you go way back to the feeling that triggers all of that, you go back to the feeling that you're not enough. We all have the primary fear of being not good enough. And our system triggers that fear. With all the pressure we put on the students and on adults to perform, we trigger it again and again and again. And why do we have that fear? We have that fear because we all receive conditional love. We all receive love with conditions. If you do this and that, I love you. If you have good grades, I love you and you get a gratification. Everyone is cheering you on because you have good grades. And you learn that and you get it ingrained in you again and again. So you learn to search for external validation. You're not internally validated. You don't have that feeling that no matter where you are, no matter what you do, you're good. You are enough. We are all enough, but we're not telling this to our kids. And we should start exactly there. And then we never teach kids at school how important their thoughts are and how important their feelings are. I mean, you studied a lot on the heart, right? So you know a lot about that. I'd love to hear your take on this. But I don't know if you're familiar with psychoneuroimmunology or with epigenetics. No, but it doesn't. I put it in a nutshell for you. Your heart has is like like a brain. It is as intelligent as a brain, but it can't think like your brain. It just knows, and it knows if you're feeling good, your heart opens, and you're feeling safe, and your brain, your heart informs your brain that it's safe to learn, for example. But we are under constant pressure. The students are under constant pressure. So that means like 70% or more of the day, they are in fight or flight mode. That means they can't learn anything, because they are kind of wired for, okay, like deep in their subconscious, they're feeling like I'm going to die if I'm not running now, if I'm not hiding now, or if I'm not fighting now. So if we are not fostering an environment where they can feel safe, where they can connect to their heart, and I don't know if you know of the Heart Math Institute. If you never heard it, look it up. They have amazing research how powerful the heart is. And I don't know if you know that the heart produces a magnetic field, and your brain produces an electric field. And if they are in coherence, that means if they're going hand in hand, like gracefully jumping together hand in hand, you have very coherent brain waves, very beautiful, very much in harmony. You would have no mental issues at all. Not at all.
Wow, thank you, Tina. I'm going to move to Dr. Sabrina. Dr. Sabrina, how can we reduce the stigma surrounding mental health in schools and encourage open discussions and support networks?
I think the one thing that we all can do is that we need to be honest about our own mental health. And so when I talk about mental health itself is an umbrella. And up under the umbrella is a continuum from mental wellness all the way to mental illness. And on any given day, any of us can find ourselves either closer to mental wellness or closer to mental illness. So I know the World Health Organization has come out with a study that said since the pandemic, there's been a tsunami of mental health diagnosis. There's been 53 million new diagnoses of depression and 76 million new diagnoses of anxiety. I think that number is small, and I think it's small because most people who are like ourselves in this room, the helpers, the people that's always doing and for others, we don't actually take the reins on getting help ourselves. And so in order to remove the stigma, we have to remove it from ourselves first. So when I go out and I do training with the helping profession, I ask the question, if something is wrong, would you go get help? It is amazing. I was in a room of 60 helpers. Out of the 60, only 2 said they would. 58 people who know how important our mental health is said no. So in order to remove the stigma, whether it's in education, whether it's on your job, whether it's in your families, we have to talk about it, because if we don't talk about it, it will continue to be an issue.
Wow, and I think we all agree with that. You know, living in the UAE for so long, born and raised in the Middle East, we face this issue. Stigma's still there. People would rather say I have diabetes and cancer, but they don't want to say we have depression and anxiety. My students at the university level, every time I say we need to go see a counselor, because they open up to me, but a lot of them talk to me and not to their parents because of the culture. And I can't tell my dad or mom that I'm depressed, right? So I remember they would tell me, come with me to the counselor so they'll know it's an academic issue and it's not a mental health issue, because obviously I'm their professor. And I think what you said, Dr. Jackson, about we need to admit at some point, especially during the pandemic, when I was hearing all of this, especially online for 2 years, it got to me. I felt down. And this is when I remember going to my husband, I'm like, I don't feel well. It's just all the negativity got to me. So we also need to recharge and help ourselves in order to help. You know, I've got my own kids and I've got my students. It's a responsibility. This is when I started meditating. I started running because I felt I needed to de-stress. I realized that I wasn't myself. So no, that's amazing. Thank you very much. Moving on to, and I'm not keeping the gentleman till the end, it's just a sequence. Miss Aqilah, she obviously is a director of preschool, so we're going down in age to younger age. So we're curious to know, what role does parental involvement play in supporting students' mental health, and how can schools facilitate this collaboration?
Assalamu alaikum and a very good
Alaikum
afternoon.
salam.
Thank you, Dr. Deena, for the question. I would just like to start by maybe defining what a healthy mental health means for children. Basically, it means children, especially young children, when you say healthy mental health, you know, they're able to meet the milestones, developmental milestones, they're able to meet the social developmental milestones, able to express themselves, able to talk about their feelings, and especially when they're dealing with difficult situations. So we may have concerns with mental health when the children show serious changes in how they learn, serious changes in perhaps how they behave, and this could cause distress. Right? And the key word here is serious changes, because as you know, children show, you know, different behaviors occasionally, and that's completely fine, they're just being children. But when we have serious changes, that's when perhaps we should look into it a bit further. So back to your question, what can parents do? So talking as a mom of 2 young children, I think in this age of more, always wanting more, and in a very fast-paced world, we forget to be present with our children. You know, we tend to forget to go down to their level and just be there for the children and to build that connection. I think, you know, even myself, sometimes I forget that, and that is just very important, you know, and to know that we are really their role models, how we express our feelings, how we deal with difficult situations. it's going to reflect on how they will deal, their situations. Maybe not now, but in a few years' time, maybe in the future. So really, to always remember that we are their role models. And just like the school, the home needs to be a safe space, a safe home, for them to feel respected, to feel loved, and to be themselves. When we, as parents, we have this in place, I believe that we can build that connection and relationship with our children. And your second part of the question, how can schools support this? So just to share a bit more on my experience as a preschool provider, the school needs to constantly engage with the parents, to constantly have discussion on the children's behavior, any changes, and be honest and genuine, always have that connection. And then the second one, to include parents, even on a day-to-day small activities, at Kitakids, we have parents used to have lunch with the children, for example, just reading a book, and you can see the changes in the children's faces when they have their parents, their families involved in their school life. And when the children see that relationship between parents and school, we are basically building a foundation for them to cope with mental health, to cope with difficult situations and to cope with their feelings. And the third one is to perhaps provide mental health services, counseling, therapists, and things like that as well, to be open to that. And also based on experience, like, you mentioned earlier about the stigma. So we still see parents perhaps not wanting to talk about the concerns they have of the children, They may see behavioral changes, but it's like a stigma. I can't talk about this. And, and I wish and I hope for parents to know that it's okay, and to really create that awareness of mental health issues. And the more we talk about this, like now, hopefully the stigma will disappear. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And yeah, that relationship is very important between schools and parents for the child. I'm very pro that. Thank you, Aqilah. Mr. Girija, I'd like to ask you, what are some common mental health issues students experience within the current educational system?
Good afternoon. Namaste to all my Indian friends. Assalamu alaikum to all my Arab colleagues. Masal khair.
Well done.
Mental health of students is often, we hear day to day, nowadays it's more prominent actually. And the numbers are day by day increasing. But the reason is, we need to understand why this is happening. One of the most, I think, prominent thing or the prominent point is the students are getting overloaded, overworked, or overpressured, overburdened by the not only the academic load, but also the fear among them to be fit in among with their peers, and that is what is creating a big stigma in their mind that I need to be in the race. And that is where they are circumventing themselves into many things which are not healthy. That is what is leading to depression, that is what is leading to anxiety, that is what is leading to what Rachel just mentioned, the suicidal thoughts, or even committing suicide, which is the last thing anybody should resort to. That is leading to eating disorder, sleeping disorder. So these are all a combined effect of the pressure that it is mounting on them due to the overload of the system actually. When we talk of the system, what is the system basically? For children, it is the education system. The system is the teachers, the system is the parents, the system is their friends. I just give a small example on this occasion, I just recall now. Our curriculum, what we offer at Mars Intellectual Services to students is beyond curriculum, that's why we call it. And we don't call it as a competition. We call it for a very simple reason, motivational learning program. And our tagline is, get your knowledge for 360-degree empowerment of yours. Not a competition. Of course, a competition is a healthy part to be attached to the curriculum for them to imbibe knowledge. Not to go with the race which the current system is saying, just get a percentage, a number. That, for example, if you don't, they say, if you don't get a 95% or 3.95 GPA, you are nothing. No, it's not correct. Yesterday we had a fantastic discussion where we said if a child brings a project based on AI and the project is a fail, so that F, you grade it as what? You grade it as fail, you grade it as feedback. How do you deal with it? As a parent, as a teacher? So that inclusiveness has to come from us, as a parent, as an educator, or educational consultant, from us. That is what is most important in this context, to educate, be with the children, motivate them, and make them learn, not score. If they learn, if they gain knowledge, they will be ready for tomorrow. We have the next panel session, I think, coming, students to entrepreneurs, right? So, if we want to make them true entrepreneurs or true leaders of tomorrow, knowledge is what is required for them, and it is important for them, not the score. Score for me is just a number. Yes, it is essential to some extent, but it is not the thing they should be putting in their mind. This is what often we tell whenever we have our workshops for the children during our programs or any of our ceremonies that we do for the children. We always try to put this point in children that these Mars programs are not competitions. They are motivational learning programs. And often we find very hard for the parents to imbibe that. Forget this children. Parents always ask, how much my son scored, or my daughter scored, at what position he or she is. We say no. Why are you always looking at the absolute number? Look at the knowledge they gain through this holistic approach, which is beyond their academics. Look at the thing that they are coming to a stage where they are meeting students from, in national level when we talk of, they are meeting students from maybe 15 schools, 20 schools, exchanging ideas, smiling with them, taking numbers, discussing. Or when you go to international level, they are meeting students from Africa, Kuwait, India, UAE. They are mixing. That is what is required. I would like to end with a small example, recent example of my son who is in grade 10. He came from his school in Kuwait. I live in Kuwait. He came from Kuwait to Abu Dhabi for their, they call it NISAC, their cluster, American school cluster basketball tournament. So I told him that you are going there, don't think whether you're going to win, lose, forget that. And same thing I told him when he went to Qatar also for the track and field event. I said, you are going there, meeting children from the whole GCC and Lebanon, Egypt, all across. Make friends, make networking, yeah? So that is what will help you. And he came back saying, Papa, you are right, that I made so many friends that today I am connected to them and I'm exchanging ideas with them. My project, what I'm doing, I'm discussing with them. And when I build a website, I'm showing to them for their review. So this is what we need basically to reduce pressure and reduce the mental stress of children and make them more comfortable. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that was amazing. I could definitely relate. I still hear parents when kids come home excited with a 90% saying, what happened to the 10%? You still hear that, and it just crushes me because I see the look on the child's face or the student's face from complete excitement to complete disappointment and really thinking, really, what happened to the 10%? So no, I agree, especially as a parent now. Again, when they go into tournaments, as you said, my son keeps saying that, but what if I don't win? I said the fact that you're participating, you're a winner already. You already have a talent and a skill to make you able to join a competition or tournament. That's winning by itself. And the rest is just the plus. Now we have exactly 12 minutes, and I want to hear from everybody in this panel on this final question. I'll start with you, Tina. So how can we create now, we've heard from all of you, how can we create a more inclusive and supportive environment for students' mental well-being within any educational institution, whether it's preschool, high school, college, training center?
I was planning to say something else, but now as you said, as you were talking about the 10%, I got a new idea about failure. The fear of failure, and that we don't want to fail. We want to be perfect. And my mentor said, perfectionism is the lowest standard. And this really tripped me up at that moment. I was like, whoo, why is that the lowest? I was, before I got kids, I was really, I really want to get everything right. And the kids taught me that it's not possible, and I've relaxed into that. But still, the fear of failure. And if you look back into history to Thomas Edison, this is the inventor of the light bulb, if you don't know. And he failed 1,000 times. And when he finally got it, they asked him, how did you feel after you failed 1,000 times? And he said, I didn't fail. I found out successfully what didn't work. So I think that kind of mindset would do a lot.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Sabrina.
I think that it's important for us to understand that there are different solutions for different spaces. And so in the urban area, one of the major problems that we see is that parents just don't show up. They don't come to parent-teacher conference, they don't come to trainings, they don't do any of that. And so we've been very successful in creating programs that parents are excited about. One of them is called a Laugh and Learn session. And the Laugh and Learn session, I know almost all comedians. Oh my God, I love laughter. So I get a comedian friend of mine to come with me, and we do about 20 minutes of a comedy act, and then I do some teaching. And so the parents come because they know the comedian, and they want to laugh, because we knew that inviting them to have food wasn't working. Inviting them to have a gas card wasn't working. But having something that laughter is attached to. Laughter, if you don't know, is medicine for your soul. So the very thing that you think that you shouldn't laugh at, you think that it's inappropriate to laugh, that's when you need to laugh. Because a part of our mental wellness is being able to have that release and laughter. And so in our schools, we need to encourage that as an alternative to just being so rigid to the educational system.
Love that. So laughing, and we'll get you more parents to come, right? Thank you, Sabrina. Aqilah, your thoughts on support and inclusion?
Okay, so I suppose talking about a preschool setting, knowing that the first 6 years of a child's life is so important. So I think in preschool, you need to make sure that it's a safe place for a child to grow. And it's a safe place for them to feel like they belong, to express themselves. Even if they're 2, even if they're 3, a person is a person, no matter how small. So that is really important. So it probably goes back to the curriculum, for example. So how we conduct our lesson plans, how the teachers interact with our children. And we could even add lessons on mindfulness, for example, yoga classes, and this will definitely help with them, with the mental health. And secondly, I think as a preschool or a school setting, we can be advocates for policies that support mental health. So having clear policies on bullying and harassment, for example, having clear policies on discipline, so how we discipline our children, and making sure that, you know, children can make mistakes, for example, and not using harsh punishments. You know, things like that is very important to set the policies. Policies on inclusivity and diversity, making sure everyone is welcome. And I suppose, you know, on mental health services as well. It's not very new, especially, you know, in Malaysia, but to talk about mental health and to have that awareness. You know, and I think the teachers and the parents and all the stakeholders really have to come together and, you know, talk about mental health, make a difference for our children.
Absolutely. Thank you, Aqilah. Mr. Girija.
Yeah, inclusiveness is really necessary. And when we talk of inclusiveness, students or children mainly, we know, they are more close to their teachers, their school counselors, than the parents even. So there are two things I would like to address first, that the counselor, almost every school has counselors. But the question is, are these counselors very well trained, well certified to deal with all kind of ages of children, all the way from kindergarten till grade 10, 12, whatever. And the teenagers are most vulnerable to all such kind of mental issues or health issues. So that is one thing on the counselor part. Second part is the teacher, who could be the best friend of the child, because 6 to 7 hours, up to 8 hours in a day, they remain with them. And if the teacher says something, that is written in stone for the child. What we say, they say, no, my teacher said like this, they say. So teachers should not have a single yardstick to measure or judge all the kids. They should have some, or teachers should be well trained, apart from how to teach, should be well trained on how to be sensitive to issues of children, the variety of issues that will comes for each kind of children, and to deal with them separately. When it comes to parents' part, parents should open, and the teachers should open up a open channel system for the children too. And same goes with the parents. We should be understanding the children. We should not be saying no, imposing on them, rather than we should be understanding them. And if we see any sort of disorder or any sort of deviation from their normal behavior, that should be an alerting point for us to act right on, rather than saying, no, what you are doing is not correct, do this way, do that. Try to understand. Today's world is different. Post-COVID, even things become more worse. So we need to understand them as an alert. When we see any small deviation from their normal behavior, we should be alerted to take some preventive actions to mitigate something that is going to come maybe worse in future. And the last thing I wanted to say, that when students have any kind of problem, there should be frequent workshops for children on different topics. Forget academics, on the life, about life, different aspects of life. And that would, I think, keep them up, motivated, and give them a real feeling of what life is all about. It's not about taking drastic steps. There is a life beyond this classroom or the education. So that's how I think the inclusiveness should be. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, of course, Dr. Sabrina.
I just wanted to add this.
Of course.
Because one of the major things that we hear is emotional intelligence. Oh my God, that's a buzzword. and so everybody needs to know what emotional intelligence really is. And there's 4 elements to it. Self-awareness, you got to know yourself. Self-management, which is my favorite, because you need to control yourself. Then you have to have social awareness. You need to be aware of what's going on around you and the people around you and all of that. And that's for any age, including everybody in this room. And then the last is relationship management. How do you manage your relationships? If you get those 4 under control, then you're moving closer to mental wellness than you are to mental illness.
I couldn't agree more. You know, again, speaking from an educator perspective, I'm sure there are a lot of them in this room. It is our responsibility to know when our students are not doing well, not just academically. We worry so much about getting through the syllabus and the curriculum. How many passed? How many got an A? Did we achieve the learning outcomes of the course? Well, how are they doing in your classroom? Are they behaving? So from the beginning of semester, I watch them closely, and I see everybody, you know, Sabrina just said, carefully watch. I see their body language. Who is that kid at the back? Not kid. Who is that student at the back who's quiet and never speaks in my class? Usually everyone speaks. I give a chance for everybody. But if somebody not speaking in my classroom, then there's a problem with that student, because my students talk more than me in my classroom. Then I talk one-on-one to see what's going on and get them closer and closer and more comfortable. I've had students that tell me, sadly, we only feel safe in your classroom at the college level. They are bullied, you know, they come with conditions that professors are not aware of. We had a student that had autism. A professor thought he was being, you know, just misbehaving, kicked him out of the class a few times. Why don't we talk to them? Especially after the pandemic, they're coming with a lot of issues. In our culture in the Middle East, and I'm sure it's common in other words, they still don't talk to their parents. I knew a lot of students that were suicidal. Their parents didn't even know they were depressed. That's how bad it is. Talk to them. And if you're a parent in this room, look at your kids closely. Notice their behavior. Notice how they feel when they come in. If there's any change, it could be, again, just a day like anybody who, you know, feels down, but it could be a beginning of a serious mental health issue. My boys hate it when I pick them up from school. They love it when their dad, because he asks them, how was your day? It's good. We go on. I don't. It's good is not good enough for me. They find me annoying. They just hate it when I come, because I'll be like, so how was your day? Good. No, but what happened in math? How was break? How was the after school activity? Mommy, stop. No, but I want to know, so that they can, again, they're boys. You know, boys don't share much in nature. They're teenage boys. But again, we need to work with them. Yeah, so annoying mom, I don't care. At least I know how my boys feel, if they're bullied, if, you know, something has gone wrong. But no, I mean, I think we have to thank our wonderful panel. We have 35 seconds. Rachel, we're doing well on time. How's that?
I gave you extra time to wrap it up, but you're timely to open it up for questions, so you do get a little bit more time, because you guys have really just such an emotional topic that I'm sure there's people in the audience want to talk to you, right? So please, take the time.
Thank you. Any questions? Yeah, do you want to step up? Or do you want us to pass the mic?
Come on up to the mic. I see people sleeping in this room. I'm about to wake you up after these questions are due, just for the record. I know everyone had a good lunch. Please make the movement. Oh, you know it.
It can be a general question, or you can address it to one of the panelists.
I leave it to the panel to figure out who wants to answer that, but I'm a father of a 15-year-old boy and a 10-year-old daughter, so I'm speaking out of my experience. For some odd reasons, it's kind of, I don't know if it's a cliche statement or it's a thought process that children are closer to the mother than the father, which I don't agree at all as a statement, right? I don't agree to that. But having said that, I come from India, and I'm speaking for the Indian culture, plus also generally. When you have a boy and a girl at home as children, how does a father manage this mental health issue? And I don't want to go to health issue, but normally having a conversation, it's easier to do it with the girls. I find it difficult to do it with the boy. How does a father do it differently as a mother does it? That's an area I would like to ask a question, but I have one man and 4 ladies here, but I still leave it to the wisdom of the panel to answer this question. How does a father talk to a 15-year-old boy in a different way than he does it to a girl? That's my question. Thank you.
We'll let the guy go first.
He's a father.
Yeah, actually, I have the same combination. I have a daughter who is who is studying medicine now, and a boy who is 15-year-old in grade 10, finished just grade 10. So it's really difficult to manage both, and as gentleman said, it's easy for a daughter. But what you say, Dr. Deena, the same thing my wife does it for my son. He is more close to her, and so was my daughter was more close to me. And I've seen, so she keeps on asking him when he comes from school until he goes to bed, what is this, what is it, how did it go, in detail, one by one, you know. And I still remember from childhood, she is doing the same way for him. And he speaks, and for me, he talks when he needs to me something, or he discusses with me something. But on a daily basis, if I see he is more close to her, and as he grew up now, even this discussion is a little bit not that open unless he needs something, or somewhere he feels that he needs my support. He doesn't come to me, rather he goes to my wife to get it done. So there is a challenge for sure, and the opposite is with my daughter mostly. Yes, it is a reality. I think with mainly maybe with Indian parents, or with all parents, I would say. Moms are, I think, little easy target for the boys to get along, I guess.
Yeah. Do you want to say something?
Well, I was just going to say it's really not a gender thing, although we make it a gender thing. And I really believe that you have to go a little deeper with your children to understand the personality type of that child. There are some children that are just compassionate and sensitive, and they are feeling, whether they're male or female. There are some that are organized, structured, dependable. They like rules and they like order. Yeah. Then you have those that are brainiacs. They're really, really smart. They want to know the information and the research and the data. And then you have those Spitfires, and the Spitfires are the one that's breaking every rule all the time. And so once you know what you're working with, then you know how to work it. The other thing, as a man, one of the things that is beneficial to another to-be man is that you're transparent about what you had to go through. If you share what your difficulties were, they will open up to you, but they think that you ain't had none because you ain't shared none.
Yeah,
Very
thank
good.
you.
And can I give a small tip on that? So I don't have girls, I have boys, and they're teenage. So Khalid is 16 now, and that my advice to you, whoever asked the question, don't bring him to the corner like, you know, I don't know, I've seen this, they do this with girls. Oh, let's have this talk. They don't like that. So what I do, I started playing video games because of that. So I can engage in a conversation while we're doing something fun. You know how boys are. So I started playing all these boring games that I hate, but just to get the chance to be in the same room doing something they enjoy while I'm getting, so how was your day? He's happy, he's excited, but I'm getting what I need. But at some point he realizes that that's why I'm playing. But still, if we can play outdoors, we can go out for a walk, but this whole thing one-on-one, especially when they're teenagers, the boys, they don't like that. They don't like to open up, at least the ones I have. So that could be a trick you could use. Rachel's looking at me.
Cool. We did a great
Tina
job.
has
Something real quick, Rachel.
I'm not cutting you off, girl. I'm not going to mess with you. You go ahead, get your thought in there.
You can slap me afterwards.
No, never. Never. You're socially conscious. There's no smacking going on.
I want to say something, and you won't like it. Vulnerability is something that you as a man should really teach your son. And you can only do that by showing that you're vulnerable as well. May hurt, may be really difficult for you, but I promise you, if you do that, if you can do that, really open up and be vulnerable in front of your son, you will get a completely different connection than you ever had before.
Thank you.
Well done. Great panel, guys. Tough conversation. Come on up here.